The countdown is on for spring equinox and summer solstice, and in this video we're going to be walking you through the severe weather season and previewing the hurricane season in today's video. So if you are new here to the channel, my name is Hunter and this is Weather on the Go. Thank you so much for joining. Hit the subscribe button and I can keep you safe this severe weather season and hurricane season, and also make sure to press the like button. It's the thumbs up button down below. It really helps out more than you know. So let's look here at our El Nino pattern that we've been stuck in over the past several months, and this means we have warmer temperatures typically over southern Canada and the northern tier of the United States, wetter and cooler conditions across the deep south with that active subtropical jet. And looking at the latest index here, we are in a weak El Nino and we continue to fall here as we get closer to the end of March. We're at plus 0.87 here, and as we get towards the plus 0.5 mark, that would be entering into ENSO neutral conditions as we're getting even closer. Now let's look at our sea surface temperature anomalies out here. You can see a lot of oranges and reds still persist across the equatorial Pacific. This is the place we look for El Nino, ENSO neutral, or La Nina conditions. And right now we're in a weak El Nino stage, and we can see some blue blobs starting to develop here just to the west of South America. This does mean a lot of those subsurface water temperatures are starting to reach the surface, and they're starting to cool as well as we get closer here towards April. So what does this mean? The Climate Prediction Center recently just outlooked an area here that did have a El Nino continuing at 100% through the rest of March and at least a 75% chance through the April timeframe. But notice the gray bar here into May and into June, that is likely turning to ENSO neutral, and then we're shifting to a La Nina as soon as the late summer and early fall months of July, August, and September. So what does this mean? Well, La Nina conditions bring more active weather typically to the lower 48 and to the United States, as we have conjoining jet streams across the western U.S. and a big jet stream across the eastern U.S., resulting in wetter conditions and warmer conditions across the eastern U.S. here, and colder conditions and wetter conditions across the western and northwestern U.S. in a typical La Nina pattern. So let's look ahead to your temperature forecast, your precipitation forecast, and your severe weather forecast for April and May, and also the rest of March here. So as we go through the rest of late March, we are looking at a below normal temperature regime across the lower 48 here and also southern Canada, and it's also going to be quite active. So the rest of March here is going to be quite active. Waves of storms moving in from the west coast. They will traverse across the country from west to east, and this could bring a multitude of hazards, including heavy snow, heavy rain, and severe weather, and even some windier conditions across the country as well as we go through March. Here's my severe weather forecast for late March. If you are in the yellow here, this is a potential for severe weather. That could be as far north as Iowa or Illinois, and a likely category, especially across the mid-Mississippi Valley on southward toward the lower Mississippi Valley and near the Dixie Alley region. So we are going to keep an eye on that as we go through late March. That is climatologically the area we look for severe weather as we go into the late March timeframe. Now, as we go into April here, you can see we have a couple areas we're watching for above normal warmth. The first area down here into Texas, we're going to be starting to warm up into Texas hill country as a ridge of high pressure builds a little bit out of Mexico and into the southern U.S. We're also going to continue with a little bit of an El Nino look to the pattern as well. Warmer temperatures up here across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. The rest of us, for the most part, will be around normal with our temperatures during April. A very active month it will be. So we have a lot of active weather to end March. That will transfer over to April. We'll see more above normal precipitation across the majority of the lower 48. Texas, though, will be above normal temperatures. Will also dry out across especially west central Texas and down toward the Rio Grande Valley for the month of April. When you average all 30 days out of the month, we will end up slightly drier than normal down there. Looking at the severe weather potential for April, I did add a red color, a significant, very likely area. We could have some significant tornado outbreaks in the mid-Mississippi Valley this April. This could include the Missouri Ozarks region, St. Louis down to Memphis, down to Little Rock here, and even the Jackson, Mississippi region. We'll keep an eye on those folks for the most intense severe weather. I do think this April. We could have severe weather, though, as far north as portions of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Green Bay, getting into South Dakota as well. That could extend back into Michigan here. So a lot of the deep south is going to start to see more severe weather events as we go deeper into April. I think the most prevalent, most frequent severe weather during the month of April will be the second half of the month. Now, as we go into May, you can see a majority of the lower 48 and southern Canada does start to trend above normal with our temperatures. You can see that noted here by the yellows and oranges on your screen, much above average across interior New England, around the Great Lakes, and across west central and the Rio Grande Valley there of Texas. As we go into May, a very active month again, centered across the Mississippi Valley here, and this is going to be the X factor for severe weather into the Mississippi Valley, I do think, this spring season. And looking here at the severe weather potential during May, an extreme area of concern across portions there from South Dakota and Minnesota down through eastern Nebraska into Iowa, Missouri, and portions there of eastern Kansas, but a large red area with very likely severe weather across the Midwest here, the upper Midwest, all the way down through the central and southern plains, and again into the Missouri Ozarks region here. I do think Dixie Alley in May could have some severe weather, but I don't see the most significant severe weather this year, this spring season, occurring in Dixie Alley. I think the most significant tornado outbreaks and severe weather outbreaks will occur up here into the Midwest, the northern high plains, and the central high plains this May. Let's look ahead to the summer months with your temperature forecast, your precipitation forecast, and your severe weather forecast for June, July, and August. Looking first at June, we're going to start to see a ridge of high pressure building in from Mexico across the southern tier of the United States, and its axis will have northwesterly flow aloft over the central and northern high plains, the Midwest, and into the eastern U.S. here, and that's the area where we're watching out for above normal precipitation over the top of that ridge of high pressure as it builds out of Mexico and into the southern United States, especially into New Mexico and Texas. The ridge is going to have more of those ridge rider type of storms. That could include derechos, potentially some squall lines of storms producing widespread wind damage across the U.S. And the most significant area of concern for that will be in the red shade of color here. Again, from South Dakota, Nebraska, parts of Minnesota there, especially southern Minnesota, into Iowa, down through portions of the Missouri Ozarks, and again into the mid-Mississippi Valley into June. Could still see severe weather across portions there in North Texas and Oklahoma, down to Louisiana, but again, Dixie Alley looking to be rather quiet as we go into the June timeframe. A lot of the significant severe weather and tornado outbreaks are likely to occur further north into the Midwest, the northern and central high plains. As we turn into July, this is a month where I think the heat is going to turn up a notch. I think as we go into July, big heat wave out west across the Rockies, across the central and southern plains, a lot of heat out here. Wouldn't be surprised if places like Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, even over here toward Albuquerque, New Mexico, reached 100 degrees or higher on multiple days this July. Some of that heat could spread up into the upper Midwest, the Midwest, and into the Great Plains or the Great Lakes region as we go into July. And looking here at the precipitation, with that big ridge of high pressure sprawling out across the western U.S., we're going to see generally drier conditions through July. Drought could be a concern out here. And then over the top of that ridge, very active ridge riders again, watching out for derechos on the outer edge of these heat waves and ridges of high pressure, and also a lot of just heavy rain across the upper Midwest here into the Great Lakes and the eastern U.S. over the top of that ridge. Looking at the severe weather potential, again, it's over the top of that ridge, very likely from the upper Midwest down through portions of the Midwest, into the Great Lakes region and the Ohio Valley, places like Detroit, and into the Cleveland region, Indianapolis, Chicago, Green Bay, up here toward Minneapolis, St. Paul, could be in the crosshairs for more of those windstorms, those derechos, as we go deeper into the July timeframe. And finally, into August, I think majority of the lower 48 here across portions of the United States, south of the U.S.-Canadian border, will be locked in with a major heat wave into August timeframe. That could be an extension extension of the heat wave out west, building east and covering most of the U.S. through August. This will likely shut off a lot of the precipitation, especially out west and into the middle of the country, and push it out east. But even out east, it's showing green here. I'm not really confident in that. I think we could have some dry weather across the majority of the lower 48 if that heat comes to fruition through the month of August. Looking at the severe weather potential, if we do have some precipitation and rainfall and severe weather to look at, it would be here in the orange from the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Midwestern regions, into the Ohio Valley, and into interior New England. But really along and east of the Rockies, there's still a potential, a possibility of severe weather as we go deeper into August. Now let's take a look at a preview of your hurricane season. We'll go over the Atlantic hurricane season climatology, the Eastern Pacific hurricane season climatology, and just preview the hurricane season this year on 2024 in general. Let's first start here with our sea surface temperature anomalies currently, because these are off the charts for this time of year, folks. It's still the middle of March, and we're seeing June, July standards type of heat, ocean heat content into this region. We have well above normal sea surface temperatures across the MDR, the main development region, into the Caribbean. The Gulf of Mexico is starting to warm up. The only area really below normal with our sea surface temperature anomalies are the northwestern areas here into the Atlantic basin, and that is about it. And even those areas are likely to warm up as we go deeper into the spring months. So first, what you're looking at here is your Atlantic hurricane and tropical storm activity here. This is climatology of when you could expect more of those hurricanes here and tropical storms. In the red, that's a mix between hurricanes and tropical storms, and in the yellow, that's hurricanes, especially those major hurricanes. You can expect that to grow as we go deeper into the summer, but especially into August, September, that's when we start to reach toward our peak of the hurricane season in the Atlantic basin. Looking at the Eastern Pacific side, it starts a little sooner, but I think with La Nina coming, I think it will start a little later this season, potentially instead of June or July, more into August, we'll start to see more of those hurricanes into the Eastern Pacific basin here. But overall, I do expect more active weather for the North Atlantic hurricane season rather than the Eastern Pacific hurricane season this year. Let's take it 3 months at a time here. May, June, and July, looking at the water temperatures and being so warm out here, I think we could have an early season storm into May sometime across the Gulf of Mexico, especially if we have one of those cold fronts moving further south and stalling out near the Gulf Coast or the eastern U.S. We had a couple of tropical systems past couple years near the Carolina coast. We definitely could see that again into May. Otherwise, June and July, it's mainly the main development region and possibly into the Caribbean. We'll have to keep an eye on during that time frame as we extend July, August into September. This is, I think, the peak of the season for the southeast coast here. I think Florida and the Carolinas in play here with one of those storm tracks, and we really have to watch Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama as well, especially into September. I think we could have a major hurricane potentially crossing into the Gulf of Mexico sometime in August or September this hurricane season. And then as we go into September, October, November time frame, during that 3-month period. Still watching the Caribbean here. I think the Caribbean, it was very quiet last hurricane season, even though we were in an El Nino. We still had a lot of storms named across the North Atlantic basin. I think the Caribbean is going to be extremely active this North Atlantic hurricane season across this region. So if you live in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, or even down here into Cuba, or the Lesser Antilles here, and definitely keeping an eye on you September, October, and even into November. I think the hurricane season could even extend past November with maybe an early December system somewhere out here, at least in the open waters as well. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Consider subscribing to the channel so I can keep you safe this severe weather and hurricane season. Also, be sure to press the like button. It's the thumbs up button down below if you like today's weather forecast. Make sure if you do like these forecasts to keep watching here, as again, I will keep you covered throughout 2024. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day out there.